It's a bonus episode. We're talking Robbie Tucker's Peppermints. Hit it. It was 2020. Totally Rad Christmas was released. Wonderful had a one-piece envelope bulb, and Robbie Tucker released his first Christmas album. I'm your host, Jerry D, with another episode of Totally Rad Christmas, the podcast that talks all things Christmas in the 80s. Toys, movies, specials, music, and fads. If it was gnarly during Christmas in the 80s, we got it covered. Now joining me is a very special guest. You'll know him as a musician, vocalist, and composer of Peppermints, Robbie Tucker. Robbie, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you doing?
You know, it's been a pretty good day. I finally have a day off after so many in a row that I've had to work.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's a great day.
Cool. I set my iPad up here in front of the window because it was like the best place for light. But now in where I am, it gets dark at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I'm slowly losing light.
I gotcha. Well, no worries. If it goes dark, I'll just keep talking.
Okay.
I'm pretty good at keeping talking. Well, yeah, this is just one of those busy times for me. I work at a Christmas store, so out of
Oh, cool.
the whole year, of course, this is our go time, hunker down, get it done type, time.
Do you work at a Christmas store that's open all year round?
It's mostly all year round. We close about 3 months out of the year, but that gives us time to redo our displays and just revamp everything in the store. And so there's a few like fixtures that always kind of stay, but mostly we just kind of redo it all. So yeah, that gives us time to do that. But yeah, that's what I do. I work at just there all year round, and it's all Christmas.
Oh, cool.
So
you're just happy all the time.
Tell you what, if you're having a bad day and you walk in and you see all the lights, and it's just, it's definitely nice.
Yeah, that's cool. I can see that. Christmas is definitely a time when it's like everybody just kind of instantly becomes happy.
Yeah.
It seems like.
Pretty much, yeah. And I've seen that. There's very few people that are grumpy, and I've noticed that if they start off grumpy when they come in, they usually don't end up grumpy.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that's always pretty nice there. But it kind of reminds me of your album, Peppermints.
Oh, good.
See what I did there? But what was the inspiration for? Like, what made you want to do a Christmas album?
Well, a few years ago, I wrote Holiday Hustle, which is on the Christmas album.
Right.
But it was very short. Here where I am in New Brunswick, there was a radio show on the weekends called the 506.
Okay.
Where the host would like play local artists. So I'm like, oh, geez, I just throw like tunes together that week, and then they put them on the weekend. It was a cool thing for like local artists.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah, it doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately, now. But I really loved Holiday Hustle. The original version was like maybe about half as long as this one.
Okay.
Because when I would listen to it in the car, I would just like go, oh, there should be more of that. And normally I'm not the kind of guy that wants to play something to death or play it out too much. But then I thought, it's only like once a year that people are going to listen to this, right? So I thought, well, it would be acceptable to make it a little bit longer.
Right.
So that's actually what kind of started. I started doing that. And then every year around October the 1st, around thereabouts, I started thinking, oh, I should make a Christmas album. And it just starts right in the back of my head and starts kind of starts as a whisper. And then by the middle of November, it's like screaming at me. But so previous years I've written a couple, like The Underrated Santa, which is on the album Peppermints. I kind of had a couple of verses for that song, but it was totally different what I had written. So I added a couple of parts and an extra verse, and it is what it is on this album.
Right.
And I had a couple of more that just didn't fit. So I thought, once I got started doing a Holiday Hustle, extending it, then I thought, well, let's just do it. And then once you start writing, you're kind of like, it kind of becomes your thing. And I have a deadline of November the 20th in order to get it out by a certain date, right?
Right.
Because it's got to be available for Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the initial thing that got me going on it.
Okay, very cool. And so, I compose a little bit myself, and I find it's actually easier, I think, to compose something for like orchestra than it is to write like a good song. So like,
yeah, I get that.
Like, what's your process when you're doing a song? Because for me, I always have like these great catchy melodies and lyrics and ideas in the shower, and then I usually forget them by the time I get out.
Yeah. Or you can put them on your phone and they just disappear. I've done that.
Yeah,
Even
that's
Paul McCartney talks about doing that. He says, if you have an idea, don't put it on your phone because it's the graveyard. It's the graveyard for your ideas.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those where it's like, oh man, this is great, and then I'll remember it and I'll have it in my head for a bit, and then life happens because I got to talk to people like for 10 hours a day at least, and during the holidays it's 12 or 13-hour days, and so I usually forget it by the time I'm done because I've been listening to Christmas music all day long.
Yeah, and it's another thing because when you're in the shower or wherever you are when that riff comes to you, it's kind of at its strongest at that moment.
Exactly.
Where you're like, I have all the faith and love in the world for this riff right now.
Mm-hmm.
And if you could like get to a piano or a keyboard or had the time and felt like you could do it right then, that's probably the best time to go at it.
Exactly. Yeah, you're completely right. The downside, of course, is that usually I have to get ready for work. And so that's why I'm taking the shower to get ready for work. So I kind of I don't get a chance to. So I know that there's been just hundreds of ideas that I've missed. But what's your inspiration for writing a song? Like when do you normally get inspired? Is it just like a lyric that comes to you, or something you see, or?
I think that it's probably quite similar for everybody. I mean, I've heard Michael Jackson, I've heard Paul McCartney, I've heard all different recording artists and songwriters talk about it as being like almost like you don't have a lot to do with it. Mm-hmm. You as the artist have the things that you're inspired by. Like my inspirations growing up were Orbison, Elvis Presley, Paul McCartney,
nice,
Sinatra, and I think those things through your love of them bleed through into what you do,
right?
And then it just comes out as your kind of interpretation of all the things you love, because you're like when you're making music, you're obviously searching for things that you like,
right?
You come up with a melody that that resonates with you, then that's kind of what that is an amalgamation of all those things that you love.
Mm-hmm.
So my first album came out in 2003, the Legend Street Sessions. That was kind of like, can I write songs? That was me going, I don't even know if I can write a song. I just want to try.
Right.
And then you just develop, and every album is hopefully a little bit more growth from there. The difference in the thing with this album is it's kind of coming off the end of me recording Blue Candy, which was actually supposed to come out before this, but it's not ready. I don't have it mixed or produced.
Gotcha.
But I started to like work in GarageBand with kind of electronic stuff,
mm-hmm.
like different sounds and synths and just cool, weird things.
Yeah, I hear you.
So that kind of bled through into like, I think maybe Peppermints. I think most of them to some extent have a little electronic element that I just didn't have in my music before, right? Before it would be, I was very much orchestration, like brass and that kind of thing. I was in love with that from
mm-hmm.
Elvis in the 70s. I was always a huge fan of Elvis. And when I lived in Montreal and I played with a band that I called the Dangerous Crayons, and we had a detachable 4 or 5 piece brass section. So we could play a small club or we could go to a big place and bring the brass with us.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, riffs and like that's a bonus to using this electronic stuff, is that you can put your hand on the A note and it kind of makes this weird, you don't do anything other than do this. And then you have to figure out, this weird melody that's being like presented to me. What do I do with it?
Right.
I mean, you can try to mix those electronic sounds together versus like piano and guitar. So I find, I hope anyways, for anybody who listens to my music, will listen to it and go, "Oh, this is different than anything he's done before."
Cool. Okay. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I really dig that because it's all a lot of times, if you're not growing, especially musically, then it all it tends to sound the same. I mean, even Fleetwood Mac, who's like I love Fleetwood Mac, they had like one of the best selling albums ever, with Rumors, and then they went on
Yeah,
to do Tusk, and it's like crazy experimental and playing on like tissue boxes and things like that, for
yeah,
percussion. So I completely get it. And I think they're, especially, when you're creative, you gotta find some way to explore. And
yeah,
so,
definitely.
and speaking of electronics, I really like that Gordon song that you
Oh,
you have
cool.
on there.
Yeah, that's probably the one that outside of Holiday Hustle, which was already kind of started.
Uh-huh.
Um, Gordon, yeah, that's probably the first one for the album that I started that I didn't know I was going to do a Christmas song. It was
Gotcha.
just like it's a Gordon's weird. Uh, you could, I mean, it's Christmassy because I mean I do Christmas things in it. Oh, look at Santa, ho ho ho! But it's
Yeah.
a weird song.
Yeah.
Everybody who's listened to me is like, I love that one, but it's weird.
It is, yeah, yeah. But it kind of reminds me of, I mean, it is very 80s if you think about it.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
there's a bit, because it has some of the synths in there, but there's also, it has a little bit of a vibe. Like if you had just added like maybe a guitar in certain sections of it, like,
yeah.
just with a clean tone, maybe some reverb, just, maybe just slightly distorted or something. It seems like it would have fit in perfect with like the Minneapolis sound, of Prince and Morris Day and the Time.
Okay,
There are
yeah,
sections of it right there where it's like, oh, if he just had like a little riff, just or something like that, it would have been like perfect. So
yeah.
there's something about it that, yeah, it is weird, but it's also really cool. And
Cool, thank
yeah,
you.
I really dig that one. That one, and I think Wish Books are like my two favorite.
Yeah, Wish Book is definitely. I mean, I don't think you could classify Wish Book as a song because it's not a
More like
song.
a
It's like,
tone poem, yeah, or
yeah,
something,
like
I guess.
I think at the beginning I say a Wish Book of Christmas reading, but
Hmm.
that's an example of something that I've never done before, and I think that's probably caliber wise compared to my other stuff. I think Wish Book is probably at the top of the list now
Yeah,
because it's long. It's almost 8 minutes. I think it's 7 minutes and 42 seconds, and it's just outside of the intro and the outro, which is pretty much exactly the same thing. Which again, I feel like because it's the same thing, you build this relationship with that instrumentation at the beginning
hmm,
and the end because they're the same thing.
right.
Outside of that, there's no music in the song. I was thinking about like adding some sounds,
Hmm.
uh, but then I was running out of time, and also I found when I finished it, the intonation is really what alongside the the lyrics. The
Right,
intonation and the way it's presented is what the piece is.
right.
Like if you read it with no enthusiasm, it wouldn't work. But I mean, that to me is probably, without question, the most emotional thing I've ever written.
It's definitely very evocative. Like as soon as I started hearing you, and you're speaking about your brother in it as well. I think
Yeah,
it's your brother, right? Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. It just right away. I remembered, being so excited for the wish book, and I remembered, everything, looking through the pages and skipping
yeah,
over all the. I think you even say like the shirts or something like that, and it's a, all that stuff, the umbrellas or whatever, get it out of the
yeah,
way because I wanted to get to the toys, the He-Man, the Transformers, the GI Joes of it all, and
yeah,
so it's like it brought me back, and so I think it's so powerful because it has that nostalgia factor that nostalgia is itself is a really powerful thing, and so that
yeah.
encapsulates it perfectly, and it just really brings you back, at least if you're a child of the 80s and early 90s, it for
Oh,
sure
definitely.
back to that era, and your childhood. And so I love that song, or tone
Yeah.
poem, or Christmas reading, whatever you want to call it. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, I have to say it's probably one of the things that I'm most proud of. I never hear from my brother when he hears any of my stuff.
Yeah.
That's not to say that he doesn't like it or appreciate it or think
Right,
that
right. Yeah.
I'm good or able to do it. But this is the first time he sent me a text message, and I'm like, well, it must be good if Jason sent me a text message, because he never says anything about anything. But yeah, he said really neat or something like that.
Yep.
And my aunt, she called and she's like, her and my cousin, they're very affected because I'm talking about our family. I
Right,
mean,
right.
like, as sure as Lassie's bark was airy and high pitched, as sure as Sparky's ears were blonde bleached, my grandmother used to peroxide her little dog Sparky's ears.
Oh, really?
Even though he was brown, his ears were like super blonde.
Oh, wow.
There's so many of those things, I think, for my family, because
Yeah.
a lot of it is written about things that happened as a kid for me.
Right.
It really, I don't know, the intonation and the lyrics, just there's something about it, as I say, very, very emotional. When I finally got to the end of it, when I finally was able to get the acronym for Sears,
Hmm.
because that the whole thing is riding on the acronym for Sears.
Hmm.
I want to say the wish book didn't come from some store; it came from the North Pole.
Right.
And I'm like, if I can't think of an acronym that lives up to the hype, this ain't gonna work. It's gonna be like a month of like wasted time that I could have been eating fruit roll-ups or something. But it's, Jerry, it's such a weird thing. Uh, like I was working out one morning and I just thought, okay, I'm gonna come up with the acronym. So I just write Sears out on a piece of paper, so I'm looking at it while I'm working out, and just when it came to me, it was the first thing that came to me. It's like it. I said this to somebody. It's almost like it was always there, like someone had
Right.
left there for someone to find.
Right.
Because when you see what the acronym is, it's just like there's nothing else that could be perfect. That is perfect. The very first thing that presents itself, and I won't say I thought of it. I mean, it was just there. The words exist, and that acronym was there. It's just, I think from that point on, it was just. It was, when I finally got the piece at the end done, I was so exhausted,
Hmm.
like emotionally, that I had to like lay down and take a nap or something. I mean, it's tiring. It's emotionally draining, but healthy. It's good
Right.
because you're tapping into something that is close to your heart.
Yeah. Yeah. And we won't spoil it here because we want everybody
No,
to go get the album. But for sure, I like I said, I think that one is like one of my favorites, along with Gordon. Those two are just my tops there. Holiday Hustle, of course, is also, you mentioned that's the first one you wrote, but it's also, it's up tempo. Tell me about the chord progression that you go through there. Like, what's your typical?
you know, I'm not a musician that was trained or studied or anything. I just picked up. My father got me a guitar when I was a little kid, and I just
Hmm.
started learning how to play it. I always say I can't really play anything. I can't. I play the bass. I play the piano. Kind of.
Hmm.
But I think through my love of Roy Orbison,
Hmm.
I've always been kind of thrown into the realm of no, I don't want to do that because that's been done 10,000 times. And
Right.
I'm still like that. So when I like when I start looking for chord progressions, it won't just be
Right.
something simple. I'll go somewhere that doesn't make any sense. I'll try to take two things that don't go together
Hmm.
and make them go together. Because there's nothing that will irritate a Robbie Tucker more than someone so lazy that they can't even try to make something that doesn't sound. I whether I ever achieve what I try to achieve, I don't always want to sound like other people.
Right.
I was approached by people, why didn't you do a cover song? That's like, if there could be something far away from me, that would be the idea of doing a cover song, because that just would tarnish the whole thing.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and I've played in tons of cover bands, and we always find that no matter how good we are, we're we still can't capture the magic of the original.
Oh,
Even
for
if we're like
sure.
ridiculously polished, we're super rehearsed, everything is perfect, starts and stops, the riffs are amazing. There's just a magic that is there when the original creator
Yeah.
sang the song. And so there's always something about doing our own songs, and so we always end up inevitably just leaning, while we'll do a couple of covers here and there, mostly we end up doing our own tunes. And
Yeah. That's the best because I mean, especially when it comes to this kind of thing where you're making a Christmas album, which is you either go one way or the other. And if you do an album with covers on it, you're essentially saying, I wish I were this person.
yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean? I wish I sounded like this. I wish I were Elvis. I wish I were Bing Crosby. I wish, and I dig the challenge of, and it's not like I tried to come up with a bunch of Christmas standards. I
hmm
think whenever I didn't approach this album any different than I do any of my other works, other than, as I spoke about, there's a lot of electronic and new things that I'm trying.
right,
Um, I just think it's better when it's your own thing. And whether you want something to be timeless or last, that's probably my best attempt as Wishbook is creating something that'll last. That's up for the ages. Time will tell if it lasts.
right, yeah.
Christmas classics weren't instantly. Jingle Bells wasn't a Christmas classic.
No, in fact, it wasn't even written for Christmas. It was actually written for
Oh,
some horse races after Thanksgiving. um
we just took all the magic out of it.
Sorry, but it's like Die Hard. Eventually people just
Yeah.
associated it with Christmas.
Yeah.
um, which is a little inside joke. I'm always arguing that Die Hard's not a Christmas movie, but some people say that it is, and that's cool. That's good
I
for
still
them.
haven't seen it. I swore to my friend I was going to watch it this year, but
Oh man, it's a good one. Yeah, it's definitely a good one. Um, so why Peppermints? Why did you choose to name it after that particular song? Because that's your opening track. Why that one and not like, what is it? Odie Odo, or Holiday Hustle even. Why not? Why
I think
Peppermints?
that I think for me that outside of the reason that like the track listing always seems to present itself. You get 8 songs or 12 songs or however many songs are on the album. They kind of
Right.
just they sound good next to each other. Now I know people don't as much listen to music in that way anymore, but some people still do, and that's still the way I create it.
Mm-hmm.
I knew early on that it was going to be called Peppermints.
Okay.
My initial idea was to get as many different kinds of peppermints, candy canes, chocolate mints, because there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of them,
Right.
and just jam as many as I could in my mouth and then take a picture. And that would be the album
that
cover.
that would have been awesome.
But I couldn't, for me, it's like if this idea is not going to work, I can't get someone to help me with it, or I can't do it on my own. I'll just make a different cover and we'll go in a different direction. But
Right.
I really liked the idea of Peppermints just stood out to me as the title.
Mm-hmm.
And I never did an album like that before because Peppermints is not lyrically, there's not a whole lot going on there.
Right.
And it wasn't until the last few days of recording that I added elves and Santa Claus, and then it just kind of that's what this song is, and it just became the first track. It is where if you were going to put that track somewhere, where else would it go? It has to go first, right?
Yeah, I could see that. Uh-huh.
And it's kind of a first for me in having an album named Peppermints, having an album with a name and a song on the album of the same name. I've never done that before either. So it's
Gotcha.
kind of fun.
Okay. It's funny because the whole album is almost, I know it's not, but it's almost at least I got the vibe that it was like a concept album almost even, and because there's a lot of the songs that while they stand for themselves, there's kind of a through line is what I noticed throughout the whole thing, and there's a lot of like voices and role play and just things happening as well, which I thought was kind of interesting and cool because you don't really get a whole lot of that in Christmas songs either.
Yeah.
There's very few of them. I can think of maybe like a handful of them, and so I really dug that. That was like one of the things that stood out to me, and it just right away it just made me like it more. Which
Cool.
I mean, it's a cool album, man. I really dig this album. So
I think again, it's like something that for me anyways, not a lot of planning normally goes into what I do.
Yeah.
I didn't set out and plan and draw that out that it was going to have this feel and vibe and direction,
Yeah.
but the reaction's been greater to any of my other works thus far. People have really seemed to like it. And there is something about the tracks, all 8 tracks together. I knew when I had those 8 tracks, it's done. When I had them in the order, even though Gordon is weird, it still fits in with the rest of them.
It does. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's no repeat. This is something that very much bothers me, and I'm not saying this to take away from other artists, but when you get an album and
Mm-hmm.
2 songs sound the same, why didn't you put one of them in the garbage and keep one on the album?
Mm-hmm.
Because, okay, that one sounds like the other one. That one sounds like this one. I find that it doesn't always happen. I mean, I probably haven't achieved that in my life, but I find those 8 tracks are unique from each other and no other one sounds the same. You know what I mean?
I do. Yeah. It's funny because then you compare Gordon with then that what is it, Odo, and that one's almost more like a country. I mean, you get kind of that like yodeling almost vibe to it, which
Yeah. That's
it,
another one that's like I sat down. I remember the morning that I made that. I wrote all the lyrics out, and that was a very emotional one as well. I mean, I get emotional when I'm working, when I'm writing, when I'm creating, because I think that happens
that's
with most
good.
artists.
I think that's great. You
And
should.
I'm writing about in Odioto about something that had very much affected me as a child and very much affected my father. And
Mm-hmm.
but then because the lyrics I feel are serious,
Mm-hmm.
the tone and melody aren't very. It's pretty happy and upbeat, right?
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah.
I just find it funny that people could listen because I mean people don't always listen to the lyrics of songs that they're listening to.
See, and that's it's funny you say that, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's how I am. I always the first thing I listen to when I'm listening to the music is the music itself, and it's not till like repeat listenings that I end up focusing on the lyrics, and
Yeah,
so that's exactly me. You're right. That's how I am. So, but
yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's just that's an interesting one for me as well because of the tone of the lyrics and then the overall tone of the melody and the presentation of the vocals and then the combination of them both.
Right.
I think those two elements meet probably the best is at the end of the song when the little kid asks, "Mom, is there really a Santa Claus?" Which
Mm-hmm.
isn't really what I'm saying. I think I don't know. People will probably get different things because people are different and they're going to get out of it what they get out of it. But for me,
Right.
I'm not saying Santa Claus. I'm saying something else.
Right. Right.
So yeah, it's just cool.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It is pretty cool. Um, So you get that one, and then again you contrast it right away. You contrast that with the Holiday Hustle because I think the other one, like you said, it's more playful. It's almost lilting in the way it's done.
Yeah, yeah,
And then Holiday Hustle's more just of a straightforward,
yeah,
kind of jam. And then you have the real, and this is where I like your flow because then we go into that wish book that I was talking about. That nice long tone poem or Christmas
yeah.
reading, and then we get one that really made me laugh. I liked it was the Donder's Last Flight.
Oh, good.
That one it was just playful, and I enjoyed it. It's he's kind of a little jealous there of
It's
Rudolph, I
it's
suppose.
one of those ones that you. When I made Donner's Last Flight, I actually put the drum beat on in GarageBand and just picked up maybe it was electric guitar or bass, I don't remember, and I actually did the melody for the whole song.
Oh wow.
Just, I mean, I knew I didn't really have any lyrics other than "Fly, Donder, fly."
Mm-hmm.
I pretty much sang that for the whole thing, but then when I ended up finishing it and writing the lyrics, there was this weird part because I hadn't planned it out when I wrote it, and I took that as a challenge to okay, what the hell do I do with this odd out of place part where it's
Right.
not a verse or a bridge or a chorus or an anything?
Right.
And I just thought, leave it in till the end, so that way it'll be next to impossible to fix it, and then you'll have to do something with it. But then
Right.
it actually quite early on became that cool first little breakdown,
Mm-hmm.
and it seems there's something that I dig about the structure of songs in general, but that one I try to not have any sort of pattern, no verse, chorus, bridge, verse, bridge, chorus, anything like that.
Hmm.
That's why I thought leave that in and come up with something.
Which is pretty
As a
standard.
whole,
You see most songs are like that. It's verse, maybe a pre-chorus, maybe not, but generally verse, chorus, and then another verse, another chorus, and then there's usually maybe a solo section or a bridge, and then
yeah.
again another chorus or
Don't give
two,
me
and that's really it. That's like most songs are structured like that. So whenever
yeah,
you
I
do
don't.
something different, and it's always fresh. And again, it's nice because it's kind of a break from the
Yeah,
standard, the mundane.
yeah, and I mean, you need a break from that. I mean, I don't know why. Like when you turn on the radio these days, it seems like there's a lot more, and it could be that I'm getting older. It could a lot of it's just I'm like, isn't this the same person we just listened to?
No, there is a lot of that. I mean, you go back and you listen to I mean, even before we were born, even the 70s, or 60s or 70s, like you take some of the classic rock bands there. I mean, Sabbath did not sound anything like the Eagles, who, barely sounded
Yeah,
like AC/DC, who didn't really sound like Deep Purple. Like they all had their very stylistic differences that
yes.
it seems, especially in like the late 90s, early 2000s, kind of broke down to where I don't know if it was the industry or what, but everyone seemed to kind of want it to be real cookie cutter. And
Yeah, it seems weird now to be in a place where the industry is kind of crashing and burning when, a lot of people are gaining their famousness from YouTube and other avenues on the internet. But
mhm,
I don't know, maybe it's as well is because so many people have access to the internet and the world now that you can get your music out so quick. Anybody can. I
right.
mean, when I was a kid, I always had this feeling that if you're very talented and you work hard, you could become famous, which is a jaded kind of thought process in itself. But now, if you think you are a star, you can kind of, okay, I'm going to make myself look like a star on YouTube or
Yeah, just put on a
a lot
camera
of
and
people. Yeah. But I mean, I mentioned Roy Orbison. That kind of if you talk about things like running scared, what is running scared? That's not a verse. That's pretty much a story if you've ever heard that song
mhm.
with a big fat high note at the end. I just, that always spoke to me to try and be different.
Right,
Try not to, just try to be different and stand out and be unique and just be authentically yourself.
right.
I think that's all we can do as artists in general anyway. I don't know why you'd want to try and sound like somebody else or do something. Now this to me is ridiculous. Why exactly would you want to do something, a song that so many other people it's been done so many times. Why would you want to even
It's
where's the fun
funny.
in that?
It's funny you mentioned that. I taught for a bit, and I remember I was leading the jazz band, and
Okay.
it was like we'd go to these competitions and we'd hear like the same standards over and over again. And so I was a fan of like modal bop and post bop kind of a thing, like Woody Shaw
Okay.
and Freddie Hubbard and stuff like that. And so I would arrange those tunes for our jazz band,
Mhm.
which is
Oh,
nice because
cool.
I could kind of make sure it really fit our ensemble. We had like just three strong trombones, even though we had four of them. And so then I just kind of, make sure that his part was just a little bit different. But I mean, I could have really focused on the strengths of it, which was our sax section.
Okay.
It's kind of things like that. So I would do tunes that, like Tomorrow's Destiny, or, I mean, no one's heard, who knows Tomorrow's Destiny by Woody Shaw unless you're, like a hardcore jazz fan. So, it's some of
I'm
these,
gonna write that down because I
so
don't know that.
it yeah, it's a good tune. Uh,
Okay.
just things like that. And so I think it really helped at least push our jazz band, maybe not over the edge, but I mean, we got accepted to several competitions and things like that just because we were doing different stuff and that wasn't the same. So I completely get what you're saying.
Yeah.
For me, lately, the most I've written, well, I think the last thing I wrote was a Christmas carol, quote unquote, for another podcast. They were celebrating a third-year anniversary. And
Okay.
so I just kind of, I said it in like a style that was kind of, 6/8, very, I saw three ships kind of style. And so it kind of worked.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
besides that, I really haven't written much in like the last year or so. So it was nice to kind of spread my chops a little bit because I hadn't done that. And so
Okay.
I know exactly what you mean about, just trying to, yeah, you can be inspired by something, but harnessing that and making it your own is different.
Absolutely. I think that's what actually being an artist, a creative person, a songwriter, that's the biggest part of it.
Yeah.
To get your own hands in there and see what you can mold, see what you can create. I mean, I don't know. I was thinking when, about people saying you should do a cover. Why don't you do a cover? Is there a lot of painters these days doing the Mona Lisa?
No.
Like I thought that was a good analogy though,
Yeah.
because it was done once, and it doesn't need to be done more than that. I'm all for live tunes. When I was playing live, we
Yeah.
did
Yeah.
some, we do something
And
that's
that's
fun. But I
different. You
mean,
got to do that live because
yeah,
people, I mean, they're going to see you, but at the same time, they want to sing and be entertained by songs that they know,
yeah,
So you got to throw in a couple of those. But yeah, for an album, I mean, I don't see the point in paying someone else to to sing their tune. Yeah,
yeah. I think that if you tag along Blue Christmas or I'll Be Home with whatever on anywhere on this album, if you add a cover, it ruins the whole thing.
yeah,
It would destroy the flow and just it would ruin it for me anyway.
yeah.
And
No, I get it.
that's what matters to me the most. If that's the only gauge that we have as artists to go by, is what we like, what we want, what we're doing. If we're satisfied with it, there's no more success that can be got. Anything beyond that is a bonus,
Yeah, I agree.
I
That,
think.
that's cool, man. But I am going to need you to explain like an elephant to me, please. Your last track.
That's funny.
It's
That's funny.
I got a
What do you want
very
to know?
like Dumbo vibe from it. Like that was my thought, and I don't know if that's what you meant, but like that was my like flying like an elephant. I believe I can fly kind of a thing. Uh,
Well, I think it's just a way to say you believe that I can do the impossible.
gotcha,
An elephant can fly. I wrote that song for somebody in my life.
gotcha.
Obviously, you probably hear that in the song,
There is, yeah, hmm
but I think again, it's testament that you can say things in a million different ways.
hmm
You know now that I tell you what that is.
Yeah,
You
it
know
makes
what I'm
perfect sense
talking about.
now. Yeah,
Yeah,
hmm
you know what I'm singing about. That one I had actually written a few years ago as well, and I didn't have I have a full studio now. I bought over the years guitar, electric guitar, bass,
right,
everything I needed.
right,
So when I actually initially wrote that song, I had recorded it on my iPhone in like a restaurant or something on there. There was an old piano there, and I'm just like, can I use this? And I recorded that and gave it to the person for Christmas. But revisiting the lyrics, I was like, what the hell? Like some of the lyrics were like, man, Robbie, 3 years ago, you could have done better than that. So I, I upgraded the lyrics a bit, and I think I may have added a verse. But what is the strongest element of that tune for me? It's the arrangement, and it's so
I was gonna say
soft, gentle,
musically, it
and
seems the most complex out of all of them. Yeah, in its simplicity, it's complex because
yeah.
it's very nice and flowy. But I think out of all of them, the chord progression or like the way it flows seems to me to be more sophisticated. I should say, maybe not complex, but sophisticated
And no,
than
sophisticated is a good word.
than than some of the others. And so I don't know if there was
I,
just a few more passing chords here and there, or if it was just more ornamentation. But it just seemed a little more, yeah,
I think
sophisticated,
there's a
more
lot of that.
personal.
I tried to dial it back. When I came across that electronic vocal kind of weird thing that's in it,
Hmm
that I loved it, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to have to record this to a click track.
Yeah,
And I I'm not good at that, and I don't like it, so I actually recorded it a lot, probably for a couple of hours, and then I just used the very first take I had done. But if I didn't record it to a click track, that
hmm
electronic element wasn't going to work. It wasn't going to be the right BPM.
right, yeah,
So that it just creates this kind of, for me, it's almost you're staring at a sky where the elephant is flying. There's like sparse clouds. There's something very elegant and light about that song that I love.
Mm-hmm.
Just the little symbols and just not overkill and not too much, just enough to feel, I guess.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's really personal.
Yep.
And I mean, that reflected in the lyrics, even though I couldn't, I didn't quite get it. I mean, now that you mentioned it, it's like, of course, it was right there. Why didn't I get it? But yeah, it's just one of those like, duh, Jerry. But but yeah, I mean, it's just the whole arrangement. I think it's like I said, it's just very sophisticated, and I really really enjoyed that, and it was a great closer.
Yeah, you see, Donder was actually going to be the closer until I was listening before I released it one night on my phone, and Elephant just came. It just played after Donder, and I'm like, I got that wrong. Donder has to be second last, and Elephant is clearly the last track.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about Peppermints, it's like the album dictates what order you put the songs in.
Right.
It always reminds me of this thing that Michael Jackson said. He said, artists need to get out of the way of writing the music. Let the music write itself. It's like, okay, I'm some sort of
Like
guide.
a conduit. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a conduit for this art that's coming out, this music, these lyrics. I mean, I'm doing it, but it's also, you have to kind of follow your heart that's the real truth in writing. You have to always follow your heart. Otherwise, you're tampering with the love, the melody, the gift, wherever this is coming from. You're tampering with it if you're like, oh, I'm going to do it because maybe my sister won't like me saying that word. No, you have to start with what's real and what's coming through you first. You have to do it first. What is my heart saying, and what does my heart say? That's the correct word. Like is that the one? No, the underrated Santa, I swear in it, and some massive curse word.
Oh, I think I did skip that one. Yeah, the underrated Santa, which was also a funny one. I like that. And not funny, but funny. Just it kind of reminded me. I mean, it made me smile. It just I everything about it just made me smile.
It's another. That's good. Thank you for saying it. I always love to hear what people's take on art because I can't rate it. I only have my own preferences to judge it by.
Right.
But someone wrote in a review, they called it a kids album. And the first thing that I thought of, kids album, I hope they didn't listen to it. I mean, it is.
Yeah, I get it. I get what they're saying. Yeah, but I definitely understand the sentiment, although I think the word choice was poor. How about that?
I mean, if you listen to the first couple of tracks, you might allude to a children's album.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, so I know what they're saying. I can see the sentiment, but I think
for sure
is probably the incorrect word choice there.
Okay.
Yeah, I would definitely say it's definitely lighthearted. It's definitely emotional.
There are definitely
at the same time, it's both, which is it's kind of a fine line to walk, but I think you walk it very well.
I mean, it's just being true to the songs is all.
Yeah.
I think that is a result of being true to the songs and being true to the music.
There you go. And on that note, I'll ask you, what would you say then would be your happiest memory of recording this whole thing and putting it all together?
I mean, I love to record, and I love to try and build a puzzle that doesn't exist and has no picture yet.
Mm-hmm.
I like the art of discovery and searching for melody and trying to fit them together, even though you think this doesn't fit at all. How do I? And then you find how it does go together. I love all of that. I couldn't say there's any one moment that stands out as the moment I like the most, but I really enjoyed this project, and I'm proud of myself because I don't know if it'll ever happen again. That's why I added that first and only Christmas album to the cover.
Yeah,
so
yeah. Which I thought was a fun touch there too.
Yeah. In case I ever do, I could just be like, no, okay, I'm doing another one. This time I mean it. This time it's not. I like that. But...
Psych.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, well, of course, I have no memory of creating it since I didn't create it. But I would say, as a listener, my favorite moment was listening to the Wish Book. I mean,
Yeah.
everything about it. At first, I was confused. Like, wait, is this like what's going on? And then I realized, oh, he did say Christmas reading. But then, as I'm listening to it, I'm just being brought more into the story and just going back to my childhood. And so that was definitely my
Cool.
favorite part there. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad. It's mine as well, I have to say, as far as, I mean, yeah, if I had to pick one, it would be Wish Book. There's
Yeah.
something special about it. And I think the people of our generation who grew up
Hmm.
with the Sears catalog are really, and I mean, I can remember my grandmother talking about Simpson Sears catalog. So
Yeah.
I think that that book goes back quite some time.
It does. Yeah. To the 30s, I believe, was the first one. So, but, but yeah, it's just, but of course, by our time, they were already spanning like 800 pages.
Yeah, it was big.
They were massive.
That's
Yeah.
yeah, very long, very very long books.
Yeah. A lot to skip over to finally get to
Yeah,
the toy section. But,
yeah.
but now we come to my favorite part of the show, which is a little segment I like to call To the Max. So this is where
Through the
this,
max.
this is where we do our where we talk about our favorite lines or favorite lyrics of in the movie or special. In this case, it's the album. So as a guest, I'll let you go first, and it'll be fun. Yeah. So just kind of
My
set up for
favorite
us. Yeah.
line from the album would have to be from that song, "Wish Book." And I don't know if you want me to say it. People can hear it, and you know what it is. You heard the last line of the thing.
Yeah.
I, I can say it. I mean, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fine. I mean, if you don't mind saying it, then that's
No, 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 no. The strange. I shouldn't say strange, but the very magical element that is artistic creation, that is songwriting, that is movie making, that is all these things that people love to do. That line just materialized in my head within a moment, and I went and I put it in my phone.
nice.
And I just wrote that down exactly as it is. Every gift you'll ever need will always be here in the wish book that's inside of you. That whole phrase I wasn't even doing anything wish book related. I was watching The Simpsons, whatever, it just, that happens often to me. Like, and okay, I got to go write this down, or I got to record this line, or I got to
Yeah.
record this riff. I'm sure it happens to you, like
Yeah.
when you were talking about singing in the shower and coming up with riffs. That to me is, aside from the what we talked about earlier, I can't think of the word now, for Sears, the anagram for Sears or whatever.
Oh, uh-huh.
That end piece makes the whole piece.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it would still work without that tagline, but when you add that tagline, it's like the full.
Yep.
For me, it's like
sliding into home. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that would be. Are we just looking for one? Because that's
If you have another one, yeah, I'm down for it. I don't mind.
I mean, I like to throw lines in songs that people probably never get when they hear it. It's just little things in my head. I had been watching a lot of RuPaul and drag queens and people unsure of their gender and Caitlyn Jenner and all this stuff, where people are, whatever people want to be, as much love involved as possible.
Right.
And I said, tapped away in San Diego, Gordon was my boy, but you could very much say Gordon was my girl. That was me saying, okay, Gordon was my boy, but you could very much say Gordon was my girl. That was my friend had told him, was like, yeah, I got that, but I don't think he did. I don't think many people would get what I'm saying, because
I completely went over my head. But now that you said it, it's like, well, of course, it's like right there. Why didn't I?
It's a weird line, but it's keeping with the song. The song is weird. I mean, what does tapped away in San Diego mean? I don't know.
I don't know. But speaking of that, it comes to my favorite line, which, and you'll have to forgive me, I'm going to do my best impression here, but it's also.
Oh, I love impressions.
And it's right after they ask, the son, the son, and ask if they have Christmas trees, and it was, yes, we've got Christmas trees. Yes, we've got Christmas trees. Yes, we've got Christmas trees for you.
Yeah, I like that. I guess I don't know. I probably have done it a lot. I've done some other stuff. I kind of do voices and weird stuff. As I mentioned, I did a series that I called "The Boy in the Bathroom Sink," where just in my bathroom there was this iron stain, a hard water stain that every day I went in the bathroom, it looked like a little boy's face more and more. So then he started talking in this high pitch, just this very aggressive sound. So I don't think I sang in his voice, but I did Santa and the Elves for this Peppermints album.
You did, yeah.
That to me, I think it's weird because I never go, what would Santa sound like? Oh, oh, oh. I just like a lot of that stuff is done in the moment. A lot of lyrics I come up with are just made up on the spot.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Santa, are we going to have peppermints for Christmas?
Yeah.
But singing in a character voice is kind of cool. And Gordon didn't last for very long. He didn't have
no, the whole place blew up.
I think that's the only thing he said, I think, in the whole thing. But I don't know. That was one of those down to the wire things going, I got to finish this tune. And then you just come up with, okay, this would be cool. Because, I mean, again, when you're creating something and after you've heard it for the 11,000th time,
yeah,
because you hear it from start to finish,
right,
it just adds that cool element. You get a little insight to Gordon's character. He's a weirdo.
But I liked it. It's good. It's catchy, and there's something about it that's just it's an awesome tune, man.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, it came together nicely. It
sure did.
You gotta know when to stop. Is one of the things that's key.
Which is always hard, especially for creative types, because a lot of us will go back. We're like, no, it's not finished yet, and then we'll go back and add something. We're like, no, it's not finished yet, and then you got to go back and take something away, and then no, it's not finished yet, and then you go back and, I mean, it's just there's a lot of editing that we do, and sometimes you can over edit.
For sure.
Which is definitely to the detriment of the song most oftentimes.
Yeah. And it's difficult again when you've heard it so many times, especially when I went to try and mix them. My ears were so full that I just okay, this one's done, and this is how I'm going to mix it. And this is done. I had to do that.
You had to say it, yeah. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you'd still be mixing it right now.
Yeah, you can't tell after a while. You can't even hear it anymore.
Right. But that does make me wonder. On that note, G.I. Joe, they taught us that knowing is half the battle. What do you think the other half is?
Well, I think the other half of the battle is, the creative aspect is what I'm good at. I like to do it. I feel like I know what I need to know about it. But as far as the promotion, that's my least favorite. I love doing these podcasts and I love talking about it and I love doing interviews. But I emailed 19,000 different people, and you're one of the only people that I've booked a podcast with. I've got stories written and articles and stuff, but I'm just not a fan of, because I feel like somebody else knows how to do it.
Right.
If I could just take this and go, okay, this is the album, it's done. Now you do your thing and get it out there.
Right.
But that's the hardest thing for me is promoting. I don't think I'm as good at it as I should be. I wrote a press release and just tried to be as professional about it as I could.
Right.
That's the other half of the battle for me.
I hear you. Well, for me, the other half of the battle, so if knowing's half of it, the other half is putting your childhood memories into a wish book song.
Oh, you nailed it.
But, Robbie, it's been fun talking with you.
For sure.
Great album. Thanks for letting me listen to it. Where can they find you? What do they,
I'm everywhere.
Where can they get the album?
Well, you can go to RobbieTucker.com.
Okay.
Robbie with an IE. RobbieTucker.com. That will take you directly to my Bandcamp page. And you can buy the album there. Right now for Christmas, there's you enter the code GIFT when you're checking out and you get 25% off.
Oh, nice.
I always say that I don't feel like a lot of people buy music anymore. So I've said to people around here who listen to it, it means the world to me if you just listen to it and get a kick out of it and like it and play it on your way home from work or play it for your girlfriend or your mother or, say to your dad, hey, listen to Wishbook and listen to it together. That really means the most $10 for the album doesn't. I appreciate the cash, but if you just want to listen to it, you can do that as you can
Yeah.
do that as well on Spotify or Apple Music or any place you can stream music from these days.
Right on. Very cool. And any place on like else online, the Twitter, Facebook, are you all over there?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook and Instagram, Robbie Tucker Music, and try to do different things on Instagram. I don't know if I ever succeed in figuring out these platforms.
I know how that feels.
We're in a place now where I actually created a couple of lyric videos I did one for Odiodoed and one for Holiday Hustle, because there's so much content these days that you have to give people some more initiative to want to listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just didn't have the time to spend a month editing a video. So lyric videos are kind of under what I'm doing now too, I guess.
Right on. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. I like that. You know, you'll find tons of those. Yeah. So that's good.
Well, it was a pleasure talking to you, Jerry. I really appreciate listening to the album, and it's super fun to hear back feedback about, to actually know that somebody listened to it and they're telling me they like this one and they like this one. That to me means the world. There's nothing that I could ask for that would be better than that.
Well, thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
I really appreciate you having me on.
And so on that right there, I will say it was exciting times in my life because Christmas is magical. So check us out on our social media pages, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And if you're feeling nostalgic and giving, leave us a review on iTunes. Not only does it help us reach more people, but you also get a free sticker. Later, dudes.
Welcome to Gordon's Christmas Shop. How can I help you? Gordon, my love, my one true love. What happened to you? Used to find me here. Oh, Gordon, my love, Christmas isn't coming, and I ain't leaving.
Oh, my son and I were looking for a Christmas tree.
Yes.
You saw Christmas trees here?
Well, yes, we got Christmas trees. Yes, we got Christmas trees. Yes, we got Christmas trees for you. Oh my goodness! Gordon Laughing's Christmas shop has just been blown to smithereens. Tapped away in San Diego, Gordon was my boy, but you could very much say Gordon was my girl. Gordon was your girl. The street on holiday, from the straight up down you see, Gordon Laughing passed away, sadly missing Christmas Day. Gordon, my love, my one true love, what happened to you? Used to find me here. Oh, now Gordon, my love, Christmas ain't coming, and I ain't leaving. Gordon, you were friendly, you were dumb and just a man. And Gordon, you have rode our Christmas Day. Gordon was just part of that old Santa's Christmas plan. I guess we'll never know, 'cause you can't say. Gordon, my love, my one true love, what happened to you? Used to find me here. Gordon, my love, Christmas it ain't coming, and I ain't leaving. Gordon, I gave it all